Well, going back through old videos trying to get some stuff posted, and I came across this video that you're watching right now, and I never made a conclusion to it. But let me just come here and say that while that's been a couple years ago, all the things that I talk about in this video, they still apply, and they're still very true today. Of course, I wish I'd have done the video a little different, and I wish I'd have been more structured with it, but that's how it is over time as we learn what works better and what doesn't. And this is an older video. Get a notebook out, take some notes. These same theories work for a lot of different things. I've started charities since I made this original video, and I now work with the church as the music director, and I do a lot of stuff over there, along with still building our race program, which is constantly growing, and we still do a lot of other small things. I've worked in the marketing field also since I made that video. And it all still applies. How's it going, guys? So I'm sitting here working on one of my industrial sewing machines, and I wanted to stop and take a little second to talk to you guys about business. So I'm Dustin with Hard Cruise Racing. If you like racing, automotive content, just anything to do with mechanics, go check out Hard Cruise Racing. I want to take a second to talk to you guys about business. And I really want to talk about what to expect when you're going into business, what you can expect when you get into business, and kind of some of the things that a lot of people overlook. The big things, guys. I'm talking massive. Now, why should you trust me? Well, first off, when I was in the Marines, before I was in the Marines, while I was in the Marines, even after I was in the Marines, I opened, and operated a range of businesses. Everything from lawn mowing when I was younger to the point I was mowing corporate accounts, all the way through parts restoration, like I said, for automotive and racing, where we would take things like old rims and parts and restore them. And then I went to college for automotive restoration, like concourse restoration style stuff. Then I went for automotive technologies, high performance racing technologies, and finally to get my degree in business. During that time, like I said, I ran a range of businesses from online stores to custom automotive upholstery, which is what this machine right here is for that I'm working on. And I noticed a lot of different things. I've ran storefronts, I've done things from my house, and I kind of just want to talk to you about it because I have a lot of friends, both when I was in college and now, who talk about wanting to open and run their own business. And there's a lot that you don't expect and that people won't tell you. And even when you go for a business degree, like my bachelor's in business with a concentration in marketing, they focus on corporate. And corporate and small business things, while some of them are similar, or they're not the same, okay? You can't read a corporate business book. You can't look at things like McDonald's and Amazon and apply them to your business in most cases. It doesn't work. It does to a point, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You're dealing on a much smaller level. You're dealing on a more limited budget, and ultimately you're dealing with, well, yourself, okay? You're not relying on all these employees. You're not relying on a huge customer base, and you need to figure out how you're going to operate, how you're going to start up, and how you're going to run. So the first thing I want to talk about is planning, okay? You need to plan your business more in depth than you ever think you would, okay? It's not as simple, let's say you want to start mowing grass, okay? It's not as simple as saying, let me buy a mower, or let me use the mower that I have in my yard and go out and start mowing grass. Yes, you can do that, and it works for a couple accounts. But if you won't decide that you want to take it seriously, then you need to think about your business more seriously. You need to start looking at marketing and branding, okay? The first thing I think every company needs to do for branding is focus on a color, okay? That sounds weird, right? A color. Think about Craftsman. Everything's red, right? We know if you see a tool and it has a red accent, it's probably a Craftsman. How about DeWalt? We know it's all black and yellow, right? Every company out there, McDonald's has their bright neon yellows, and Coca-Cola has their dark reds, and Pepsi has their blues. Every company out there that's majorly successful has a color. Now, what this is called, not only marketing and branding, but it's called recognition. Okay, you want customers to see your sign from a distance without being able to read it and say, I think that's so-and-so. Or I've seen them mow quite a few properties. Okay, so pick a color and pick kind of a unique color. For both my upholstery business and my racing, I picked the exact same colors, and that was a light blue and an orange, okay? Similar to what you see in NOS, but we went with a lighter color blue, so that way it would be similar recognition. If they see NOS or something like that, they would see it, or if they seen our company, they would be like, what is that? Why isn't that? It's a little different, but it was also supposed to be more classic styling, okay? Something from like the 60s, that brighter colors. And a lot of our branding, a lot of our designs were designed off of that more classic pinstripey, neon-y style. So that's step one. Pick like a color, pick a design, pick a theory, okay? How do you want to be represented? Right now, we're doing a lot more focus on our racing program, and I'm starting to do things more 90s style from when I was a kid, okay? I enjoy the style. It's bright and neon-y. I can stick with my blues and my oranges, but it's something that people are starting to recognize. People are starting to see the 90s style and be intrigued by it, so I'm going to it. Take that even further and decide how you want to be seen. Staying with the idea of a lawn mowing business, do you want to be seen as a couple guys out there in t-shirts and raggedy jeans, messy, mowing their grass? Or do you want to encourage, company shirts looking nicer and building to a high-end standard? Okay, you need to choose your standard. For upholstery is a big one, okay? There's a lot of shops out there that are what we call pop-up shops, or we call installers, okay? They're going to buy covers from China, and they're not really going to make anything, and they're going to put a seat together. And it's a business. It is. I'm not dissing it. Most people that come into a shop, they want just a pre-made installed seat like your 1968 Camaros. They make covers for them very cheap. Or 65 Mustangs. I mean, they're all just like, they're Me Too cars. There's a lot of them out there, so they're cheap. So they just want you to buy a cover and put it on. That's a business. But you can't do that and then expect to be taken as seriously as somebody who does one-off custom high-end stuff, which is what we used to do. I say used to, but I'll get into that later. But we would do high-end, one-of-a-kind custom products, which means I had to deny a lot of low-end work. I had to make sure I was in a nice button-up shirt every day and nice clean pants. But I'm creating a feel. I'm creating a expectation, so that way I can build to that expectation and I can be seen as at that level. So you need to choose that for your business. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If it's a forge, how will you advertise your product? How will you advertise your knives? How will the pictures look? Will you do it with like a wood background or a leather background? Or are you just going to take a picture in your hand? Those are two very different products, and it's what builds perceived value. Okay, perceived value is how much a customer feels your product's worth, not necessarily how much your product costs you to make. That's why high-end companies like Louis Vuitton are able to sell their bags for such a high price, even though they are not that great of a product. They're a good bag, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot nicer bags out there that don't get the same focus because of the way Louis Vuitton or Gucci or any of those companies have created the perception of how much their product is worth. So you need to build on perceived value. The next thing you need to do is research, and this is a big thing, guys. Marketing, research, understand your market. Okay, you need to start understanding, is there even people out there that want your product? There's this theory, there's a saying that you should find your buyer before you create your product. And it kind of goes with this. Start talking to your friends, start talking to local business owners. Say, is there anything you guys need? Is there any products you need? Is there anything that you want? You can have a theory, and you can think it's a great idea, and then it just doesn't stick. And I've done this, guys. Running online stores, I have made things like I'm a Freemason, and I've made online Freemason stores because people said that there was a need for more unique and more modern products for Freemasons, right? So I did that. I went and spent hours and hours and hours of my time creating things like shorts with designs across them and shirts and cups and everything else, okay? And they didn't sell like they should have. It wasn't worth my time to put into it, even though people said that they wanted them, because the general market didn't want them or can't find my product or whatever it may be. But I didn't find enough consumers before I made my product. Yes, there were some people that were all about it, and yes, there were orders that went out, but it wasn't at the level that it should have. So you need to find your consumer. You need to find you need to understand your market that you're going into. You also need to understand where you will be compared to other businesses of the same standard in your area. The likelihood of you to create a brand new product that has never been seen before is very minimal. And when you do that, it's highly risked, but there's more of a chance that you're going to build a product that already exists. You might want to go open a burger stand. Okay, you're competing with who? McDonald's and Burger King and all these companies. They're not your direct competitors though, guys. So you need to put yourself different. Don't look at those companies directly. Yes, there are burgers on the market that are available. You likely won't get those consumers. If you're opening where there aren't those things, you might get those consumers. So now you need to look at, okay, well, all the small businesses, all the small restaurants in my area that serve a burger, how do I beat them? How do I make a better product where people are going to come to my stand instead of going into their restaurant? And how do I make something that exceeds the expectations to where people are starting to come to my door? I don't care if it's a hot dog. You can make a great business out of a hot dog, but it can't just be a hot dog and you put ketchup and mustard on the edge of your table and say, there's a hot dog. You need to find a better sausage. You need to find a better mustard. You need to find better toppings and make yourself unique and advertise those things. That is the biggest part of business. Now, the next thing that everyone always asks, and I see it all the time on Facebook and on, like, especially the sewing pages. I run an International Sewing Machine Facebook group, and it's always, what can I charge my customers? And there's two ways you need to look at this. The first one is you need to look at your local market and decide what people are willing to charge. Let's just say you want to make a cheeseburger. You know that right now, without a doubt, people are going to go to Wendy's and McDonald's and they're going to spend, what, $7, $8 for a cheeseburger. So you can't put a cheeseburger out there and expect to sell it for $20, $25. You're not going to maintain business that way. Some people might come in and check it out, but your prices are just simply ridiculous compared to the market, okay? Unless you're doing something that maintains that or you raise that perceived value. But most of the times you're not going to be able to do that. So you need to be realistic and you need to start looking at the people around you and figuring out what they're charging, okay? That might be, talking with some guys who are mowing grass. And that's my example because my neighbor's mowing their grass right now. But you might need to talk with some of those guys or, call and get a quote to mow your grass so you know what they're charging per square foot or however they're charging it. Okay, and you need to do some understanding on what's possible to charge and how you take it to the next level. Just mowing the grass might not be enough, but if you add mowing the grass and edge trimming and straight lines and all of these things, it builds up, okay? And the next thing you need to look at is what your overhead is compared to what you're able to charge, and you need to compare those, okay? I'm going to use custom upholstery as an example because I obviously did for a long time, and I understand that market very well. So I know without a doubt that I can charge in my area $65 to $85 an hour, and that's off of understanding the market. But what I needed to do is I needed to take my building overhead per month. Well, I need to take all of my overheads per month, okay? So the building and the expenses and the utilities and the softwares that I was using to run and anyone else that I'm going to pay for that work, and I need to add all of that up. And that's going to give me a base dollar amount. That's how much you need to make per month before you put a single penny in your pocket. And I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? Because when you are doing your own business, you are not making an 8-hour paycheck. You are only making money when you're billing money, okay? So you need to first and foremost look at that steady overhead, okay? And this is a reoccurring every month overhead. The next thing you need to do is look at your variable overheads, okay? The things that change per job. For something like mowing grass, you have a lot in gas, okay? You need to think about how much it costs you to mow. So let's just say per acre, or if you're on the mower for 10 minutes, how much does that cost you in gas? Figure that stuff out. There's a lot of people out there that don't, and they're just like, oh, well, it's an expense. I'm going to pay it either way. Yes, but there's expenses that go to your customer, and there's expense you're going to eat, and really you don't need to be eating any expenses. The price of gas is the price of gas, and you need to figure out how much it's going to cost you to mow a property, okay? And the next thing and you have the price of trucks, depending how far away these accounts are. I have a buddy that still does property maintenance, like corporate property maintenance, and there's some accounts that he has to play the game of, is it worth it because I have to drive 30 minutes or 45 minutes to get there with equipment, and that's a huge expense. Okay, now some customers are going to be very reasonable on this subject, and you're going to say, I have to charge you in gas because you're out of my normal range, and other customers are not going to be. If they're not willing to pay for gas for you to get there, don't keep those customers, guys. That's just the reality of it, okay? So figure out that variable overhead. For me with upholstery work, it was materials. Materials are such a big overhead, but I put all of those variable overheads onto the customer, okay? When I figured out the plan, I measured everything out. I always ordered, 10, 20% extra material for material comes damaged or whatever, and then I would charge them for that material straight up. I would say this is your cost for material, and then I would say this is your cost for supplies, and that covers glue and things like that. Customers are very open when you do something like this, guys. I mean, in most industries. Obviously, every industry is going to be a little different, but you need to be open and upfront, and you need to be transparent. Company transparency is huge. People want to feel like your company is owned by people and that you're being honest with them and open and upfront. That's the way it is. Unless you get into that high-end perceived value game, if you're just trying to start out a business, you need to be open with your customers. These things cost me more. I'm going to charge you more. In most cases, they're fine with that, okay? Now, the next thing you need to do, well, once you figure out that number, you need to compare that with how many hours you're going to bill, not charge, or not 40 hours a week. It might be 10, it might be 8, it might be something small, guys. When you start out, it might be extremely small. You need to figure out your billable hours. This is how many you can have on the books and you're going to work, because you can work a full 8-hour day. And when I was doing upholstery, I was working 14-hour days, 12, 14-hour days, and I was only charging for 6, 7 a day if I was lucky, 4 on slow days. So you need to figure that out. For me, something like bringing a vehicle in and moving stuff around and getting set up for a job, I ate that, so I needed to keep that in mind. I generally go off like an 8 to 10 hour week is what I charge or focus on my billing, so I can figure out my hours. Anything you work more than that per week is your steady income. That's your your growth, okay? So what I do is I figure out, off that 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, or round about that, you're going to take that big chunk that you have in expenses, and you need to be realistic with your expenses, guys. If you're driving 20 minutes back and forth to a shop every day, calculate that. You need to know everything, every minute thing. If you're paying for a phone, throw it in there. If you're paying for anything, just throw it in there in your costs, okay? Because then you're going to take that big number and you're going to divide it out into your 40 a month, okay? And that's going to give you a dollar amount. That's going to give you what you need to be charging to maintain the bills, okay? And for me, with the upholstery stuff, I think it was something like $30-some. That's without me making a single penny. That's without me putting anything in my pocket, okay? And so now you need to take that amount compared to the market, the current market, and you need to figure out what you can charge. If I can charge 60 or say 65 an hour, now I have a growth for the business, not for you, for the business of 25 an hour, or whatever it comes out to be. Here's the thing. Listen to me. Your business is not your pocket. Separate these two things very directly. Separate them. Have the business and then pull a percentage, a steady percentage from the business. Yes, there are times when you're going to be in need and you're going to pull more than that, but try not to. Let's just say you decide that you're going to pull 50% of the monthly income, or the monthly net, total income after expenses, after everything goes out, you're going to pocket 50%. That's okay. So you bill your 40 hours. Let's just say you're $20 above your base price, and now you have $800 sitting there. You're going to pull $400 of that and put it in your pocket. That's what you get, okay? If you want more money, then you need to work more than that minimum 40 hours a month that we talked about, or 10 hours a week. So now let's say you kick butt and you work 60 hours a week. You still have the $800 from the 40 hours, but the other 20 hours, that's where you're pocketing that $65 an hour into the company, and you're being paid $35 an hour. That's where it adds up. But working or building a company, you're never going to work 8 hours a day. You're not. You have to be the advertiser. You have to be the marketing consultant. If you're going to start handing out flyers and stuff like that, you need to be the employee. You need to do the billing. You need to do the everything. You need to do customer relations. You're going to be the one at the desk talking to customers or on the phone call all day. You need to be that person. And I can tell you right now, having a storefront, doing upholstery work, when we came back, well, there's times where people just all of a sudden have extra money, especially when they were doing the reliefs for COVID and stuff like that. And I was talking to customers so much in a single day that I could not get a single thing done. And I eventually shut my doors and put by appointment only on the front of it, and I stopped answering my phone and let it go to voicemail. And I can tell you right now, people do not respect those signs. They will simply walk in your door even if there's a sign that says by appointment only. I had a big sign on there that said by appointment only, and I would keep my door cracked because it was so hot in the summertime. And I would have people stick their head under the door and try to yell because they thought that I was going to come give them a quote. One thing I'll add that I didn't have in this video is go do more with your community as a business. After I made that video, you know, again, I do a lot more with charities now. I do a lot more with the church now, and I do a lot more with like personal outreach, along with doing a lot with emergency response and like homeless communities and so on and so forth. And I think the biggest thing that I was missing when I made that video was community outreach. If you take your business, and it doesn't matter what that business is, and you start doing good things with that business in your community, and you go out and say, well, for an example, in my town there's an automotive repair shop. They started putting on events, not big events, but like little festivals, little fairs, like family days, like bring your family out, and there's some rides and music and things and so on. And within 2 years of that business starting up, that business had been seen as a vital part of the community, and a like I don't know the word I'm trying to think of here, but it was seen as like a positive within the community. And so of course now when you get into a car crash and you need repairs, your first thought goes back to that company that you've seen 20 times, and you know their logo in your head because they've put it on things within the community, and you know you can reach out to them. You might have talked to them. Sorry, I'm shaking, I'm cold, and it happens. But anyways, you might have talked to them at these events, so now you don't feel so awkward going out and having a conversation with these people, because they've been there. You're not like, ooh, scary car guy. So get out there, take your business out there, and do more with the community. I think that's the only real big thing to add to all this. Oh my God, I'm shaking terribly. My disability's been acting up, which is why I'm going through a lot of old videos instead of recording new stuff. So I hope you get a lot from this video. Again, go take notes on it. Get out there, start your business. I'm not telling anyone not to start a business. It's just I want you guys to be cautious, because there are like steps where it's like, if you don't have anything in place, you'll get the business from the people around you and like your neighbors and stuff like that, and some friends. But if you do this next step, you know, the steps I talk about in this video, you'll be able to build a business as a whole. And then you're going to reach to a point to where there's like a wall that you got to like break through, like a ceiling. And that's going to be like the hire a bunch of employees ceiling. But then you're going to change your business design, and you're going to require new insurances and like all sorts of other stuff. So I'm trying to help you guys build up to a certain level. When you get to the end, it's just going to suddenly stop. So be prepared for that, I guess. I could make an ending. It's fine. You're good. You got it.